There's a producer I know, successful producer, I will not mention names, but his whole opinion about women on film, from beginning to end, is very brief.
Trying to talk about Valerie Jarrett wrote the Iran deal.
I know, but you've told me this 300 times. Do you know that if...
That's what my tweet was about.
From the early days of silent movies to the present, Hollywood has always been filled with standards that fail to fit in reality. But what happens when the perfect image drops and the horror within is revealed? From revelations that end careers to remarks that have caused significant loss, here are 40 worst Hollywood celebrities you didn't know were racist. Number 40. Al Jolson. Back in the 1920s, when the Hollywood movie industry was just gaining traction, Al Jolson was one of the famous stars who earned his place as a Hollywood legend. But for one of his characters, Jolson had people questioning his stance on racism and views of minority groups. In the 1927 movie The Jazz Singer, Jolson played a character in blackface, a character which, in modern times, is now being seen as a caricature of black people and people of African origin. This has left people wondering if it was really just entertainment in those times, or if it was a way for Jolson to poke fun at Africans for their looks. Either way, his character in a movie is by far less than another Hollywood legend who made a fortune from doing the same. Number 39. Walt Disney. The man behind some of the most famous Disney stories like Cinderella, Snow White, and the Three Little Pigs has a deep secret the world has not fully uncovered yet. Over the years, the truth of Walt Disney's racism finally came to light when the world analyzed the portrayals of the seven dwarfs in Snow White, the big bad wolf in the Three Little Pigs, and black men in the Song of the South. Simply put, Walt Disney was a complex man who did not fully accept his racist tendencies, but remained racially insensitive by openly associating with Adolf Hitler and several others who were either anti-Semitics or outright racists. Was he truly racist or just profiting off of his association? We may never know. But what we know is that another famous Hollywood celebrity openly owned up to being racist in his comment about black people. Number 38. John Wayne. It is one thing to play a character that mocks a specific group of people, but it is an entirely different thing to defend the mass murder of a race outside of a movie scene. Those were the literal interpretations of Hollywood's legendary cowboy, John Wayne, in an interview in 1971, where he defended the genocide of the Native Americans as well as his defense of white supremacy. After the footage of this interview resurfaced, protests and remarks from people and students alike have caused his exhibit to be removed from a university in California. Sadly, he is no longer alive to witness the backlash of his actions, but a certain Hollywood star continues to live through the consequences of his actions. Number 37. Jimmy Kimmel. Dressing up as your favorite athlete is not a crime, but wearing blackface and making yourself look like a black man is borderline racist. This was Jimmy Kimmel in 2001 when he impersonated NBA star Karl Malone by wearing blackface. But the problem here wasn't the blackface costume. It was the fact that he had done it several times before and had deliberately created exaggerated stereotypes of black people. Facing a backlash in 2020 after those videos resurfaced, we sometimes wonder if these people actually feel remorseful or if they apologize just because they got caught. But just like Kimmel, this next show host also got it hot from the public after his exposure. Number 36. Steve Harvey. His jokes are funny and controversial, but his personality borders between being a jerk and being a racist. In one of his comedy shows, Steve Harvey decided it was a good idea to use Asian men as the subject of his jokes, making fun of their food and their men. The reaction from the crowd was hilarious, but the Asian community and the internet as a whole did not take it too well. To keep up appearances, Harvey took to his Twitter page to tender an apology to the Asian community, which makes us wonder what else he had said about other races, and if he is really making jokes or just telling the world who he truly is, a horrible person. Number 35. Megyn Kelly. Others may have worn a blackface costume to mock a race of people, but they apologized when they got called out. Megyn, on the other hand, did not just wear one, but defended her actions when she got called out for it. The worst part, she made her defending statement on live television, stating that there was nothing wrong with blackface as long as it was for an act. The consequences of her actions hit her fast and hard because her show got canceled in a matter of days, and she lost out on a lot of money. Another show host saw the wrong side of the public and equally learned her lesson the hard way. Number 34. James Stewart. On screen, he was America's sweetheart. Off camera, the same could not be said for his character. When he wasn't shooting scenes, he was treating his black co-stars and cast members like literal shit, even going as far as commanding the replacement of a black man on the set of one of his shows. In addition to that, his frequent use of racial slurs against black people further exposed who he truly was as a racist and horrible man. Number 33. Paula Dean. Food shows are a delight, but for Paula, they would remain a haunting reminder of her mistake. In an expose by a documentary in 2013, the world saw the kind of person Paula was. A woman who abuses her African-American staff, a woman who regularly uses the N-word, and someone who fantasized about a plantation-style wedding reminiscent of slavery times. Big mistake, for the world would cancel Paula, her food show shut down, and sponsors left. Even after a public show of tears and apology, anyone would think twice before visiting her restaurant or watching her shows anymore. Number 32. Henry Ford. He may have changed the manufacturing industry of America by creating the assembly line, but Henry Ford was no saint, at least by anyone's standards. With his popularity and newspaper factory, Henry spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and they were so popular that Adolf Hitler himself applauded them. In his factory, workers were segregated based on race, and Henry would often send inspectors to the neighborhood of workers to make sure they lived according to his standards. Number 31. Roseanne Barr. If you think a social media post is not enough to harm you, think again. Roseanne faced serious backlash in 2018 with just a single post on Twitter calling former U.S. President Barack Obama's advisor, Valerie Jarrett, an ape. The result? Barr was fired from ABC, and her character was replaced in her own show. While she came back to apologies afterwards and blame her tweet on a handful of sleeping pills she took, it's clear that no amount of drugs can influence a hateful comment. Number 30. Ben Affleck. Did you know one of Ben Affleck's ancestors was a slave owner? Apparently, the world didn't know that as well until Sony's emails leaked, and part of the things exposed were Ben's plot to hide his family's ugly history. In 2015, on a show called Finding Your Roots, Ben discovered that one of his ancestors owned slaves. But instead of addressing the truth and condemning the act, Ben asked that that part of the show be deleted, essentially covering it up. When it blew up, Ben apologized to the public, defending his actions by saying those facts were embarrassing. But by then, it was already too late. Number 29. Anthony Cumia. It would take a different kind of person to wish for the return of racial profiling. But then again, that perfectly describes Anthony Cumia, an American podcaster and broadcaster who wished for the return of racial segregation. After an altercation with a black woman, Cumia took his woes to the internet, calling out black people and labeling them as violent animals. But unlike others, Cumia did not feel sorry for what he said after he was called out. Instead, he doubled down and maintained his stance. It didn't take long for him to be fired from his show, and the world canceled him for his horrific fantasies. Number 28. Charlie Sheen. In his movies and even in his personal life, Charlie Sheen had always shown difficulty and complexity. But what many did not expect was for him to become a racist. In 2011, Denise Richards, Charlie's ex-wife, told the media that Charlie used racial slurs on her when they were married. But he didn't stop there. According to Denise, he extended his insults to her friends and her lifestyle in general. From the moment the accusations were made till now, Charlie never fully owned up or denied the accusation, making the world believe that it might be true, and that it might be another feather in his hat of controversies. Number 27. Hulk Hogan. He was famous for his wrestling career in the early 2000s, but his entire career did not just come to a halt. It was basically erased for a single act. In 2015, a video of Hogan using the N-word multiple times flooded the internet. But that wasn't just the problem. Along with that, Hogan had a huge problem with his daughter dating a black man. In reaction to the video, WWE fired Hogan, deleted his records from their official site, and removed his name from the Hall of Fame, all for a video. But speaking of stars who lost everything for their negative view on races, this Hollywood singer went all out on all races, including hers. Number 26. Paula Abdul. She was nice and warm during her time as a judge on American Idol. But after one incident that had the general public questioning her true behavior, everything changed, and not for the better. In the show's early seasons, Paula had reportedly mocked contestants with foreign accents, making a caricature of them in a shocking way. While she may have intended for it to be a joke or perhaps a light humor, several fans did not seem to share the same view as her. Number 25. Aelia Banks. It started out as regular rants on Twitter and other social media platforms. Eventually, it grew into racial slurs against everyone. Singer Aelia Banks was known for her brutal remarks. But when her digital attacks on Zayn Malik in 2016 grew beyond just rants, the world watched. Sure enough, her racial slurs formerly directed to Zayn Malik were now extended to Asians, black people like herself, and even the LGBTQ+ community. In the aftermath, she lost her Twitter account as well as her career. Number 24. Kanye West. As the race that is usually on the receiving end of racial comments, insults, and slurs, it's weird when a black man becomes the offender. Before 2022, Kanye's rants on social media were just rants and nothing more. But it all took a sharp turn when he started making anti-Semitic comments, praising Hitler and applauding the Nazi principles. The consequences of his actions were almost instant. Brands pulled their deals and contracts from him, and fans denounced him. In the months that followed, Kanye's career took a hit and never fully recovered afterwards. Number 23. Morrisy. What was once a promising career ended on a bad note with just a few wrong words. Singer and songwriter Stephen Patrick Morrisy learnt the hard way when he called the entire Chinese population a subspecies in 2010. Along with that, he stood strongly against immigration, stating that it was responsible for the ruin of Europe. While he was never truly called out for the things he said, who he is has become clear to all, and he has naturally faded into obscurity. Number 22. Nick Cannon. It is not every day that you see a black man being racist to a white man, but this happened with Nick Cannon when he made offensive comments in an episode of his podcast in 2020. In his words, white people were savages who acted the way they did because of a deficiency that is linked to their skin color. Also, Cannon pushed anti-Semitic comments and the Jews and their use of media to control the world. As a result of these, his career took a hit, a situation that was clearly fitting for the words he uttered. To make up for his crime, Cannon tendered a public apology, but even then, a couple of fans believed it was already too late. Number 21. Mark Wahlberg. What happens when you combine violent racist behavior with the hormonal violence of a teenager? At just 15, Mark Wahlberg was a terror to the black people around him. He would throw stones at black kids and call them names anywhere he saw them. As he got older, he expanded his racist behavior to Asians as well. Years later, after building a successful career as an actor in Hollywood, Wahlberg has apologized for his behavior, citing teenage behavior as the cause. But if there wasn't any evidence of his racist past, would there have been an apology from him? We may never truly know. Number 20. Jeffree Star. You may know him from the ever-changing color of his hair or his colorful makeup and personality, but Jeffree isn't exactly new to the limelight. Rising to fame in the late 2000s and early 2010s as a makeup influencer and brand owner, a new side to his personality resurfaced, and it wasn't as colorful as you'd imagined. In some of his old videos, Jeffree was shown using racial slurs and offensive insults frequently. After those videos saw the light of day, Jeffree stepped up to do damage control. As an effect of his past actions, he lost a couple of brand deals, but it did not really slow him down in the end. Number 19. Paris Hilton. Apparently, being a reality television star and Hollywood celebrity doesn't stop you from facing backlash when you have to. That was probably the thoughts that ran through the mind of Paris Hilton, Hollywood's dive queen of the early 2000s. After being caught on tape saying the N-word, Paris tried to defend herself years later by saying she was drunk most of the time and doesn't remember the things she said then. While she admitted to being drunk almost all the time, she didn't deny using the N-word, but instead said being drunk was not an excuse to use it. Number 18. Don Imus. One day, he had it all, a good life and a good job, and the next day, he had lost it all. Before his downward decline into obscurity, Imus was known for his blunt, often harsh words, but after a comment he made in 2007, the world finally had enough of him. After referring to a women's basketball team as a bunch of nappy-headed hoes, the public cried out in protest and called for his punishment. Initially suspended by the NBA news team, further pressure from civil rights led to the complete termination of his job. Even after he apologized, he was still blacklisted from the public, and his attempts to get back in the good graces of the people failed miserably till his death in 2019. Number 17. Camila Cabello. As someone who has faced discrimination at some point in her life, the last thing anyone would expect is for Camila to become one of those people who oppress others when they come out on top. In a recent situation where her past posts on Tumblr were dug up, exposing her derogatory remarks to black people and Asian people, Camila took to the media to apologize. Using her young age as an excuse for her behavior, Camila tried to rectify the situation with public apology posts. Number 16. Walter Brennan. He played the loving grandpa everyone wished to have on screen, but outside of Out, there was a disturbing view of human rights that lay beneath that charm. By strongly opposing American civil rights, Brennan saw it as a plot to ruin America. But instead of keeping these beliefs to himself, Brennan publicly shared his beliefs and went as far as building a bunker in preparation for a Soviet invasion. As he shamelessly pursued his belief system, Brennan continued to land roles, winning several wars afterwards till his death. Number 15. Ted Nugent. Coming from a man who claims to love black people, Ted Nugent went on live television and called the former American president Barack Obama a subhuman mongrel. Even further than that, he accused the president of weaseling his way into the top office of the country. But his apparent hatred for the black folks did not end there. Nugent further claimed that African Americans reproduce at a high rate, higher than the average white man. While trying to defend himself with his proclamation of love, it is clear that people like Nugent will do anything for attention. Number 14. Katharine Hepburn. She climbed to the limelight in the early Hollywood years and became a legend for her strong feminine characters, but her character off-screen was not as impressionable as it was on set. In her personal life, Hepburn shared a discriminatory view against African Americans, often questioning their intelligence and ability to work. But no one really knew about it until she said it herself in an interview in 1967. Even worse, her comments on the interview resurfaced years later, further damaging her legacy after she died. But while she was alive, Hepburn failed to use her popularity to defend the civil rights movement, thereby adding another dent to her life and career. Number 13. Taylor Selfridge. She had the drive and the skills to be a reality television star, but after a series of tweets she made found their way to the general public, rising star Taylor Selfridge was canceled. In her tweets, she said she was scared of black people and would not greet them if she saw them. In another, she also made dirty comments about black women. For that, she was fired by MTV, and her climb to fame halted for the right reasons. Even after apologizing and claiming she was young and stupid, everyone knows they only apologize when their behavior affects their work. Number 12. Rosie ODonnell. In a few years, Rosie managed to offend the black community and the Chinese community with racial comments and slurs disguised as jokes. These comments were not well received by the public, and the Chinese community demanded an apology from her for them. After apologizing and expressing her deepest regrets, her support for the LGBTQ+ community has never been wholly accepted due to her past history of racial stereotyping. Number 11. Abby Lee Miller. Her tough leadership and dance academy have churned out successful dancers like JoJo Siwa and Maddie Ziegler, but Abby Lee herself harbors a terrible personality. Known for being extremely harsh on young dancers, Abby has been shown to be even harder on black dancers, calling them ghetto and making derogatory remarks about their lives. After one of her former dancers exposed her, Abby tried to manage the situation with explanations and apologies, but it was already too late to fix things. Number 10. Donald Trump.
The Pope is being told that Donald Trump is not a nice person, okay? Donald Trump is a very nice person. For a religious leader to question a person's faith is disgraceful.
The deeply controversial man of America is not new to backlash from racist remarks and discriminatory statements. From his days in the real estate industry to his days as the former president, Trump has championed white supremacy, referred to African countries as shitty countries and Mexicans as sexual offenders and criminals. In the days of President Barack Obama as the U.S. president, Trump was one of those at the forefront of the black president's African origins. Particularly common is his strong statement to people of color, telling them to go back to where they came from, even though most of them were born in the U.S. Number 9. Leia Michelle. In the wake of one of Hollywood's most successful musical shows, Glee, a co-star went public and exposed Leia Michelle for being racist while they were on the set of the show. While they filmed, the black star claimed Leia terrorized her on set, called her names, and even threatened to make her get fired. It's been years since the show was released, but Leia continues living her life as if it never happened. Number 8. Tyla Tequila. It's bad when someone makes racist comments about a particular race, but what about someone who publicly praises homicide against another race? Tyla Tequila expressed her views as a white supremacist when she went online multiple times to praise Hitler and throw around Nazi salutes. While her audience thought she was merely chasing clout, her efforts increased with her calling out interracial marriage. In the end, Tyla's social media account was taken down, and she was banned from all social media channels completely. Talk about karma. Number 7. Gina Rodriguez. She came into the limelight by playing Jane in the television series Jane the Virgin, and since then, she has become one of America's most beloved Latinas. All that changed when Gina used the N-word on Instagram Live, shocking her fans and viewers alike. But alongside that, Gina has been caught several times downgrading the struggles of Black people compared to Latinas, and even claiming Black people get more roles than they do. While she has apologized for her video, it's unclear where she stands on racism and how it affects other communities. Number 6. Justin Bieber. This might be hard to believe, but the darling singer of young Americans is not exactly innocent. In a video captured of Justin, he made a sensitive joke about Black people and chainsaws. Of course, he was criticized for it, but he has come forward to plead for mercy, explaining he didn't know better then and that he has taken the step to educate himself. Being young and beloved by many, Justin has probably been forgiven by the public, unlike a Hollywood legend who still has a long way to go to gain favor with the world again. Number 5. Mel Gibson. After a run-in with the law in 2006, where he was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol, respected actor and director Mel Gibson launched a verbal attack on the Jews, blaming them for being responsible for everything that is going wrong with the world. 4 years later, Gibson launched another verbal attack, this time on his then-girlfriend, saying that she would be sexually assaulted by Black men because of the way she was always dressed. The recording of Gibson's remarks to his girlfriend was bad enough on its own, but his use of the N-word made it even worse. As punishment for his words, Gibson was blacklisted from Hollywood for several years before he made his comeback. Number 4. Alec Baldwin. He may be one of Hollywood's finest actors, but Baldwin's deeply controversial life regularly makes the headlines. Besides being profiled as a racist, Baldwin constantly faces backlash for his political views and personal life. In 2013, Baldwin was at the mercy of the public after he called a Black photographer a racial slur. Even though he denied it, Baldwin faced another issue the same year when he was caught using homophobic words. Number 3. Jesse Waters. At first glance, Waters looks like a fine man, but underneath the charming exterior is a man who has mocked Chinatown of the Asian community, made fun of racial discrimination, and continues to downplay police brutality against Black people. By Waters' standards, immigrants should be segregated by the value they bring to American society. As expected, a lot of people do not agree with him, but his penchant for bridging in traffic to Fox News has helped him retain his image, no matter how horrible it turns out to be. Number 2. Kelly Osbourne. She had a great career as a television personality and celebrity, but one wrong statement on national television set her back years in her career. In an attempt to trash Trump's immigration policies in 2015, Kelly made a statement generalizing Latinas as housekeepers and toilet cleaners. And while her statement may have come out the wrong way, people did not take it too well. Number 1. Liam Neeson. One of Hollywood's finest and a protector of the innocent shocked the world when he revealed a deep-rooted hatred and racist tendencies. While promoting his new movie in 2019, Neeson had made a terrifying remark about wanting to harm and even kill any black man who triggered him. The basis of his remark came from the flow of emotion following his friend being assaulted by a black man. He said that he had walked around with a weapon just hoping for a black person to offend him so he could end him. Months later, he apologized, saying he was not that kind of person. But at the time, the public had already taken his word for it.